Welcome back. Let's take a look at what this market now looks like. It's been red across most of the day. A little bit of nervousness setting back into the market picture. Perhaps a little bit of a rest from these tech counters as well, which have really bumped up the market hemisphere as well. A lot of this gain actually comes, or other the losses from today really come after yesterday. We saw Apple surpass that $2 trillion mark, the first US listed company to surpass $2 trillion in market capitalization. That's a big number for them. Of course, now surpassing Saudi Aramco as well as the most valuable company in the world. That happened a while ago, but now to surpass that $2 trillion mark is a big task then for Tim Cook, who of course took over when Apple was barely sitting at $800 million for its market capitalization. So he took it through $1 trillion and now past $2 trillion just 2 years after surpassing that first milestone then as well. So big gains there for Apple and the iPhone maker on that front. But unfortunately, that wasn't the kind of positivity that was going to shift the market into a sense of goodness as well then. So negativity across the Asian market with a big fall for the Hang Seng then out in Hong Kong. China's Shanghai Composite is 1.33% weaker as well. So that weakness reigning in and coming through even to the European market then, as we see even the FTSE 100 go down more than 1% and around 1% losses as well for the DAX in Germany and the CAC 40 out in France as well. So all of that negativity, we've shared it as well. 1.5% down is the JSE All Share at 55,533 points. The big losers so far today have certainly been the platinum mining stocks, which means that the resources have gone down more than 2%. So a big fall on that front. The likes of Northern Platinum, Impala Platinum also not doing too well then on the back of results and earnings on that front. The banking count is also 1% weaker today, which means that the financials are 1.33% weaker. So that makes a complete fall across that board. The listed property is, however, 0.5% bucking the trend for the remainder of the market. Speaking of bucking the trend, the likes of Sasol have gone up 8.6% today, sitting at 140 Rand a share thus far, while the likes of Redefine have gone up 5%, but it's still only 2.70 Rand a share on that front, with Attack, also another property stock, going up 3.8%, and of course linking through to that SA listed property segment. On to the negative counters then. Sun International unfortunately going down nearly 7% today as well, so not good news still for the tourism sector across the local sphere. Sanlam of course putting through quite a few changes as well today, changes to the executive board, trying to form a new asset management firm as well, plus of course then the trading statement pointing to a negative set of earnings which are expected to come through later on as well. So we'll unpack those with the CEO hopefully as well. More than 5% loss there. Anglo Platinum as well, 5.2% weaker today, of course highlighting the platinum miners who have gone down quite steadily. Onto the commodities board then as well. South Africa's currency touch stronger, but not much to write home about, at 17.22 Rand against the US dollar. A euro is 20.39 and 22.60 Rand then for a British pound. So some relative strength, but not really anything that you'd really say is quite alarming there. The gold price is headed higher, but it's still languishing below that $2,000 a fine ounce mark. Perhaps it was a flash in the pan, or perhaps you could say it was a bump rally when it comes to the gold price surpassing $2,000 a fine ounce. Platinum is down nearly 0.5%, with more than 1% lost as well then for Brent. Crude is at $44.90 a barrel. All of those then do mean that we've got a sense of negativity. Even the US-China trade tensions have certainly piqued the interest of markets, and that has been quite a big story as well. Let's have a chat then to Owen Nkomo from Nkunzi Wealth, who joins us today as we unpack this market picture. Owen, if we just take a quick glance at this market, negative today across the board, even though Apple surpasses $2 trillion in terms of its market value. Elon Musk moving to number 4 in the world in terms of the wealthiest and richest people in the world. But still, the bulls are still out, generally speaking, I suppose, on this market.
Yes, absolutely, Arabile. The bulls are definitely out. They're taking this drug called quantitative easing, which has helped them continue to break records. The S&P trading at all-time highs, just pulling back yesterday, but the sentiment generally remains positive, and I think that we'll continue to see quantitative easing coming through into the markets globally. It's a sad thing that back here at home we're still battling with things like load shedding, Arabile, as you can see from where I am here.
Yeah, so I mean, I was actually going to ask about that. Oh, and you made a note of it as well. Then you're shopping for some painting, and unfortunately, load shedding hits again, bearing sentiment then to how business begins to suffer when our economy doesn't function much the same as Eskom not functioning right now.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's we're just doing a tour of Johannesburg, the inner city, to see how businesses are faring there. And we came across an art studio called August House, where I'm currently being hosted by a gentleman called Great Joy in Lovo. He has got no joy today because there's no electricity in his studio, and he's barely seeing any traffic come in because people are under a lot of pressure. And you know, I had walked 7 floors up to get to where he is. I'm exhausted right now. So it just gives you a sense of how much more small businesses are going to struggle out there if the Eskom challenges continue to inhibit growth in the economy. And I do hope that at some point a solution will be found. Otherwise, we'll be in total darkness in the next few years.
Yeah, it does begin to hurt as well for the overall economy. Wanted to chat about something with you then, Owen, and something that I think deserves a whole lot of attention. Then yesterday, we saw that announcement, which I thought was a good one, of Ralph Mupita taking over as CEO of MTN as of the 1st of September.
Yes.
It bodes well for the market and continuation for the plan for MTN, but on the broader aspect of transformation across the companies listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, it's still... I mean, it's a great addition, but the numbers are still really bad when one takes a look at the number of black CEOs across the JSE listed companies.
No, it's not great, Rabile. You know, I count about 19 JSE CEOs of company or other companies that are led by black CEOs on the JSE. Out of over 320 companies that are currently listed, and of that 20, about 2 to 3 odd are women. Black women, and that is, the CEO of Bidvest and the CEO of Naspers, the Putsima Hanyele. And then the addition of Ralph is a great welcome addition to that list. But I do think we still have a long way to go before we really can be reminded that this is an exchange that is listed in a country that is in Africa, Arabile. A lot of work still has to be done, in my view, to reflect the South African demographics on the JSE by way of leadership there. I know the guys are trying their best, but I don't think their best is good enough. We need to see more enforcement to make sure that talent like Ralph Mupita does get given an opportunity to lead some of these big entities. Transformation is an agenda that must be at the forefront of every organization.
What do you see as the big hindrance, though, then, Owen?
I think it's basically a willingness to accept the fact that we need to give black people more opportunities in corporate South Africa. There's just no will, and the old ways are still entrenched in corporate South Africa in a way that you have no idea, Arabile. We work closely in the space. We work with corporates, we work with advisors, we work with lawyers in the space, we work with deal makers, and I can tell you that the absence of a black balance sheet that can help black people make responsible decisions that will see more black people leading these companies is a big hindrance. We need to find a way to enforce this the leadership of black but professional and qualified and experienced guys like Ralph, like Babu Sipho Masego, like the guy at Exaro, Babu Umkojo, and Oput Mahanyele and the like. The talent is there, but they're just not being given an opportunity. And I think some of those black guys, Babu Sim Shabalala, we were talking about just Standard Bank just earlier, he's doing a great job at Standard Bank and its circumstances. And I do believe that we need to continue to get shareholders actively enforcing the requirement to give black leaders a chance to lead JSE entities.
Yeah, look, their best certainly is just not good enough at this stage. You mentioned Standard Bank there, their earnings coming out today. A 44% then drop in that headline earnings per share figure. They had said 50% drop. I suppose either way is not really surprising. 6 over here and half a dozen over there. But the business clearly tells you that COVID-19 has impacted it really hard.
A big impact when Arabile, you see Standard Bank has made provisions of about 107 billion rands to help its small businesses and to help their personal banking clients, and 11 billion has been used to support their African customers as well during this difficult period. 44% decline in earnings in South Africa, and a relatively surprising performance by the African divisions, which have delivered north of 60% in growth in those numbers and their contribution to the bank. But the overall picture being painted is that it's going to be a very difficult next few months and maybe next few years. It's going to take a long time for us to recover from this COVID challenge. And the numbers are telling a story that is consistent with the fact that the economy is definitely going to be sluggish for an extended period. But the markets, on the other hand, are telling you a different story as they continue to trade at all-time highs.
Yeah, look, whether we can continue past these all-time highs and in further into greater territory. I suppose the lack of options as well, though, in what we are able to trade at this time, then, Owen, when one takes a look, you can't get into banks purely just because interest rates and the like are very low. So bonds have become not necessarily too attractive in this economy as well. So it really is just up to the equity market, and at best, you're getting into the tech counters, which is the likes of Naspers, Process, all pushing up. And of course, in the US, all those tech companies as well, doing fairly well. So not really much to invest in at this point.
Now, look, I mean, I think there are pockets of value, Arabella, if you look carefully. Some of the sectors are still very depressed. And if you have a very long-term view, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year view, and you do think that at some point we're going to be able to deal with coronavirus and its impacts, and hoping that our government and corporate South Africa wear the same hat when it comes to the recovery process, I do think that some of these companies, the banking stocks, the financial stocks, the insurers, and the defensive names will do well over time. We're talking earlier about Ralph and MTN. MTN is exiting the Middle East, bringing maybe some cash back. Potentially some distributions going to happen when they finally manage to get that money back from the Middle East. So there is opportunities out there, but it's going to take very brave people to be patient with their investment positions, and hopefully in the long run it's going to yield returns. The US side is getting too hot. Tesla is getting too expensive. Amazon is expensive. Apple is getting very expensive. If you look at these stocks, they are just really running on the back of sentiment being positive there, and people believing that tech is the space to be. But back here at home is a little bit more difficult to choose places where you can hide or put your money, because we have a very small universe of opportunities, as I've said.
Yeah. Owen, appreciate the chat. Always good chatting to you, but all the best, and hopefully you pick out a nice art piece there nonetheless, and I'll take one for myself too there, if you can spare as well. Owen Nkomo from Nkunzi Wealth there, joining us to unpack this market movement. That brings things to an end here from me from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange.